laboratory, years in my laboratory, sort of titrating one half and just going, a little more realism there, shit, okay, a little more fantasy there, you know, and just making sure that you felt like both sides were really present. And I literally, this sounds like a made-up thing for an interview, but I had a copy of the corrections on one side of my desk, and a copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe on the other side of my desk. And they were sort of the Scylla and Charybdis that I was sort of trying to steer between. Wow, that sounds stupid when I said it out loud, but it made sense at the time. So, you know, I as a reader, I was studying to be an academic for a while. I was interested in modernism and realism, and I gave that up, but I have like a good thorough grounding in that tradition. And mediating between those two sides was the big challenge of the book for me. That really is destiny. I think it's got sort of a special destiny. I don't think Magician King is going to end up meaning exactly what you or one initially would think it would mean from the title. But yeah, he's chosen in the sense, what is that Jewish joke about how we're the chosen people, but sometimes they choose somebody else. He's a bit the chosen one in that sense. A bit Job-like.
You bring up the Magician King title. You mentioned that you had an idea to change the title, but then they showed you the paperback that had the coming 2011, The Magician King. Can you tell us what the other title you might have had in mind was?
Yeah, but it's stupid. But
is it episode 2, The Magician King?
Well, I mentioned before that Julia plays a big role in the second book, and I wasn't really sure how that was going to work, and so I started out writing her story from her point of view, because when Nestor, gee, what happened all that time when we were going to break those or whatever? How did you become a head witch and whatever? Because why wouldn't you want to know? And I had her answer in her voice, and one of these like crazy sort of possession moments happened where I simply started to write in her voice, that day for hours, but then hours the next day, and then week after week, I kept writing, this voice of hers, which I really loved writing in. So, there was a moment where I thought, maybe that's what this book is. Maybe this book will start at the same moment that The Magicians does. And
was it hard for you to actually admit in print that you hoped that magic was real?
I think the hardest part for me was admitting that it wasn't real. I mean, when I started I started writing this book, I was 35. 35? And in such a state of, emotional arrest that it turned out when I started writing this book that I had to come to grips in not a real way, but in on some level a real way with accepting the idea that at some point somebody wasn't just going to say, hey, by the way, this life that you're living, you could just chuck it and move to Narnia where things are going to be really cool. I think I had spent years and years sort of stacking up problems and saying, well, I could deal with that, but it's not going to matter in Narnia. So, I think I had to find a way for me to come to terms with the fact that I was never going to Narnia. And I was not even going to be accepted into the adult continuing education branch of Hogwarts. It just was never going to happen. So,
did you speak to your therapist about this?
Yeah, I talk to my therapist. I talk to my therapist about my book all the time. He's probably really, really sick of hearing about it. But yeah, it's come up. It's come up. Yeah. The advice thing, I have an expanded version of this, which I wrote up on my blog. Because I sometimes get asked this. I have a blog. It's at levgrossman.com. If you're insanely curious, you can get the long version of this. But
you can also get Break Bill's T-shirts and a Break Bill's newsletter. I signed up.
I was actually thinking about wearing my Break Bill's T-shirt for this because I love them so much. somehow it didn't strike the right tone. It seemed formal enough, but there's a guy in Portland who makes these amazing Grey Goose t-shirts, and I bought like 20 of them. Anyway, I only have two pieces of advice for writers. One is just read everything you possibly can. I'm a great believer in the idea that you cannot write anything until you've read everything. And the reason why The Magicians works to the extent that it does is that I've just read a lot in the traditions that it comes out of, which are basically fantasy and also, to a lesser extent, early 20th century modernist literary fiction. And the only other one is never give up. That is the baseline rule that I give everybody. Never fucking give up. It took me basically 16 years to get into print. I've known people who have sent out the first draft of their first novel and had a bidding war. Cough, my brother, cough. In the first week. And that didn't happen to me, and that wasn't my the path along which I found myself along which I got into print. Just never fucking give up. I should have given up so many times and I didn't. And now look at me now. I'm Skyping into a book club.